Have you ever felt that some pains return, not because you took the wrong path, but because you're being called to face what you never wanted to see? There's something ancestral within us, an ancient echo that repeats patterns as if under a spell. We're not living life, we're reenacting symbols. And perhaps your suffering has a name you've never dared to speak. Imagine that your financial life is not just a bank statement. It's not merely the sum of your effort, your luck, or your decisions. What if money were the language of something much greater? A language your soul uses to send you messages. Yes, I'm talking about your financial crisis, that feeling that money slips through your fingers, that prosperity is a door that closes just as you try to walk through it. This crisis isn't a practical problem to be solved with a spreadsheet or a finance course. It's a sign, an invitation, a symphony of symbols that your own psyche is orchestrating to get your attention. Think of money not as a paper note, but as energy, a fluid energy that reflects your relationship with the flow of life. When that flow is interrupted, when it becomes a river of pebbles and dams, we tend to blame the outside world, the economy, the competition, bad luck. But what if the root of that dam lies somewhere much deeper, in a place the rational mind ignores, but the soul feels viscerally? The true origin of your financial crisis might be a whisper from your shadow, a scream from your unconscious, a spiritual crisis disguised as financial trouble. And here's where we need to be honest. Look at your life. How long have you felt trapped in a vicious cycle with money? It comes and goes like an unwelcome guest. You work hard, you strive, and yet the scent of scarcity lingers like a persistent perfume. For most people, this would be a signal to work harder, save more, fight more. But for those on a journey of self-discovery, who have felt the call to go beyond the obvious, this crisis is a beacon pointing to the shipwrecks of your psyche. You might be wondering, but how? What does my financial life have to do with my soul? Everything. In Jungian psychology, the unconscious communicates with us through symbols and archetypes, and money, like love, power, and health, is one of the great symbols that drives our lives. It can represent security, freedom, self-worth, even love. When our relationship with these symbols is unbalanced, the external world becomes a distorted mirror of that inner disorder. Let's dive into the first sign. It's subtle, almost invisible. It's the feeling that you're always comparing yourself, always chasing, as if your prosperity depended on what others have. There's an ancient myth that helps us understand this. The myth of Tantalus, condemned to stand in a lake with water up to his chin and fruit trees overhead. Whenever he tried to drink, the water receded. His pain wasn't thirst or hunger, but the agonizing proximity to satisfaction. Scarcity was a psychological torment, not a real lack. Tantalus was trapped in a cycle of desire and frustration. And how many of us live like Tantalus? The neighbor's success feels like the water that recedes. A colleague's promotion is the fruit the wind carries away. Our vision becomes clouded, and we spend our lives chasing a finish line that keeps moving. The first financial crisis wasn't a cash flow problem, but a distorted perception that enough is never enough. Insatiability, the constant desire for more, isn't a sign of ambition but a symptom of a spiritual void that no amount of money can fill. The insatiable soul creates an insatiable reality, a universe where there's never enough. Pause for a moment and feel this. What is your relationship with what others have? Do you feel a pang of envy, a dismissal of your own journey? This isn't a question to judge you, but to invite you to dive deeper. Because envy, jealousy, and comparison are the first ghosts that drain your energy. The energy of money, of flow, of prosperity. They trap you in a state of lack, even if your bank account is full. It's the curse of Tantalus, making you believe the neighbor's grass is always greener, and your own is a desert. This is the first sign. You're living in the myth of Tantalus. You're trapped in a cycle of comparison and dissatisfaction, where your prosperity is always measured by what's missing compared to what others have. The solution isn't to earn more, but to reconnect with the source of your own inner abundance, to free yourself from the psychological torment of comparison. Your financial crisis is a mirror reflecting your dissatisfied heart. The second sign is quieter, and perhaps the most painful. It appears when your relationship with money becomes a dance of self-sabotage and guilt. You strive, you work, you do what needs to be done, but the moment prosperity seems near, something happens. An unexpected expense, a disappearing opportunity, an impulsive decision to spend what you couldn't afford. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a mistake. It was your shadow acting. In Jungian terms, the shadow is our hidden side, the set of traits we deny in ourselves and that, because of this, haunt us unconsciously. and your shadow might have a serious issue with money. Imagine this story, one that resonates with many of us. There was a man, let's call him Elias. He was a tireless worker, talented, with big dreams, but every time he saved a significant amount of money, something stopped him from prospering. One time, his car broke down. Another, a family member needed urgent financial help. Another still, he felt compelled to make an impulsive, expensive purchase he didn't even need. Elias blamed bad luck, fate, but what he didn't see was that, deep within, he had an unconscious pact with scarcity. In his childhood, he repeatedly heard that money was dirty, that only bad people were rich. He internalized the belief that being prosperous would make him a bad person or separate him from his community. His shadow was sabotaging his prosperity to maintain his identity as a good person and connected, even if it meant living in lack. The financial crisis in this case is a projection of your shadow. It's your unconscious protecting you from a success you secretly believe you don't deserve, or that would turn you into someone you fear becoming. And here's the paradox. The more you deny your shadow, the more power it gains over you. It manifests in ways your conscious mind can't decipher. You might be, unknowingly, in a cycle of financial self. Who would you empower if you were rich? That's an uncomfortable but crucial question. And more, what part of yourself do you fear would emerge with prosperity? Perhaps the fear of becoming greedy, arrogant, or losing simplicity keeps you in the comfort zone of scarcity. The spiritual crisis reveals itself as a conflict between your conscious desire for abundance and your unconscious belief that abundance is dangerous or morally reprehensible. This is the second sign. Your shadow is sabotaging your success. Your relationship with money reflects your fear of becoming the person you were conditioned to reject. The path isn't to fight the sabotaged, but to integrate it. It's to bring to the light of consciousness the fears and beliefs that imprison you. It's to look at the monster in the mirror and realize it's just a part of you that needs love and acceptance. The third sign takes us to an even deeper dimension. It manifests as a repetition of patterns that seem to come from outside, but are actually an inheritance of your soul. Think of a lineage, a family, a people. We all carry in our energetic DNA the memories and traumas of those who came before us. The financial crisis your grandmother lived through during the Great Depression, your grandfather's struggle for survival in wartime, the shame your parents felt for not having enough. These stories aren't just in family books, they're encoded in your soul. In mythology, there are the sins of the fathers. It's the idea that the disorder, pain, or curse of one generation can be passed to the next, not as punishment, but as a lesson to be learned. A karma to be undone. Your financial crisis might not be yours. It could be a family pattern, a burden you're unconsciously carrying. You might be reliving a story that doesn't belong to you, but manifests in your financial life as an invisible loyalty. There was once a family where prosperity was always followed by a great loss. If one member built an empire, it fell. If another prospered, illness consumed them. It was as if financial happiness was forbidden. The root of this curse was an ancient trauma, where an ancestor was betrayed in a business deal. The pain of betrayal turned into an unconscious belief that money always betrays, and each new generation, unknowingly, repeated the pattern. They didn't fail for lack of effort, but out of loyalty to an ancestral wound. They were trying, unconsciously, to honor the suffering of the past by staying in scarcity. Have you noticed repetitive financial patterns in your family? What was said about money in your home? Were there fights, fear, shame? Those conversations, those feelings, became part of your unconscious. They are the ghosts haunting your bank statement. Your financial crisis might be a call to break a cycle that's lasted generations. A call to heal not only yourself, but your entire lineage. We come to the fourth sign, and it's a matter of worth, not the market value of your work, but your personal worth. In a world that teaches us to put a price on everything, we forget that our intrinsic worth is priceless. Your financial crisis might reflect your inability to feel worthy. You might be working in a job that doesn't value you, selling your talents for too little, or submitting to situations where you feel invisible. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, mirrors what we believe we deserve. Greek mythology tells us the story of Psyche. Psyche was forbidden to see her husband, the god Eros, and was subjected to a series of impossible tasks to prove her worth. Her journey, full of pain and challenges, was a quest for her own value. Her pain wasn't about a lack of love, but about the belief that she wasn't worthy of it. Only when she overcame the challenges, faced her fears, and proved her own strength to herself, could she finally reunite with love and abundance. How many times have you sabotaged a raise, a new project, or a business opportunity because you felt you weren't good enough. This sense of unworthiness is a black hole that drains the energy of prosperity. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how much water you pour in, it will never be full. Your financial crisis might be a call to reconnect with your worth, to understand that you don't need to prove anything to anyone, and that your dignity is priceless. Your spiritual journey here is one of Think of a moment when you felt most valuable, not because of praise or an achievement, but because of a deep sense of being in your rightful place. What was happening, and how can you recreate that feeling of worth in your life today? The universe doesn't give you what you ask for, but what you believe you deserve. Your financial crisis isn't a sign of your incapability, but a sign that you need to recognize your own light and worth before the world does. And the fifth sign, the deepest of all, is the most revealing. It's when money becomes a battlefield for your relationships. Your financial crisis might reflect a wound in your heart chakra, in your capacity to give and receive love. For the unconscious, money can be a substitute for love, attention, security. When we don't feel loved, we try to fill that void with money. When we fear giving ourselves fully to a relationship, we use money as a barrier or a means of control. There's an ancient story about the Hindu god Vishnu, who, in one of his incarnations, lived in profound poverty. He embraced scarcity as a path to reconnect with his own essence, detaching from all worldly things. Poverty wasn't a lack for him, but a tool for enlightenment. But for most of us, money and love are intertwined. They are two sides of the same coin. The coin of flow, and if the flow of love is blocked, the flow of money will be too. Have you noticed how fights about money in your life are never just about money? They're about control, insecurity, power. Your financial crisis might be the cry of a heart closed to giving and receiving, a heart afraid to surrender, to trust, to open to the vulnerability of love. Financial healing, in this case, can only come through emotional and spiritual healing. True abundance is the ability to love and be loved without fear. Your spiritual journey is one of opening your heart. What is your relationship with receiving? Do you feel comfortable receiving a compliment, a gift, help? Or do you immediately feel the need to reciprocate? The inability to receive is one of the biggest blocks to abundance. It traps us in a mindset of debt, that we're not worthy of receiving the universe's grace without immediate repayment. And now, the great mystery, the conceptual shift that recontextualizes everything. Have you noticed that all these sense comparisons, self-sabotage, ancestral inheritance, unworthiness, emotional blockage aren't about money? They're about you. Money isn't the problem. It's the symptom. Money is the canvas on which your unconscious projects, your deepest fears, your oldest wounds, and your most entrenched patterns. The financial crisis isn't a flaw to be fixed. It's a spiritual initiation. It's your own being, your soul, shaking you to look within. It's the archetype of the hero on their journey, forced to descend into the depths of their own shadow to find the treasure, their own wholeness. What do you do then? When money becomes a battlefield for your relationships? Your financial crisis might reflect a wound in your heart chakra, in your capacity to give and receive love. For the unconscious, money can be a substitute for love, attention, security. When we don't feel loved, we try to fill that void with money. When we fear giving ourselves fully to a relationship, we use money as a barrier or a means of control. It's a dance of power, control, and insecurity. There's an ancient story about the Hindu god Vishnu who, in one of his incarnations, lived in profound poverty. He embraced scarcity as a path to reconnect with his own essence, detaching from all worldly things. Poverty wasn't a lack for him, but a tool for enlightenment. But for most of us, money and love are intertwined. They are two sides of the same coin, the coin of flow. And if the flow of love is blocked, the flow of money will be too. Have you noticed how fights about money in your life are never just about money? They're about control, insecurity, power. Your financial crisis might be the cry of a heart closed to giving and receiving, a heart afraid to surrender, to trust, to open to the vulnerability of love. Financial healing, in this case, can only come through emotional and spiritual healing. True abundance is the ability to love and be loved without fear. Your spiritual journey is one of opening your heart. What is your relationship with receiving? Do you feel comfortable receiving a compliment, a gift, help? Or do you immediately feel the need to reciprocate? The inability to receive is one of the biggest blocks to abundance. It traps us in a mindset of debt, that we're not worthy of receiving the universe's grace without immediate repayment. And now, the great mystery, the conceptual shift that recontextualizes everything. Have you noticed that all these sense comparisons, self-sabotage, ancestral inheritance, unworthiness, emotional blockage aren't about money? They're about you. Money isn't the problem. It's the symptom. Money is the canvas on which your unconscious projects, your deepest fears, your oldest wounds, and your most entrenched patterns. The financial crisis isn't a flaw to be fixed. It's a spiritual initiation. It's your own being, your soul, shaking you to look within. It's the archetype of the hero on their journey, forced to descend into the depths of their own shadow to find the treasure, their own wholeness. The financial crisis is your soul telling you that you need to change, not your bank statement. What's more frightening? Living in scarcity, or facing the truth that your prosperity depends solely on you, your beliefs, your shadows, your wounds. The turning point is when you stop fighting scarcity and start looking at your own story. You stop blaming the outside world and start taking responsibility for your own energy, your own truth. Life isn't happening to you. Every challenge, every crisis, every frustration is an invitation to become more whole. And your financial crisis is the loudest invitation of all. It's your soul's voice telling you to stop looking outside for what can only be found within. It's your journey of self-discovery taking you to the next level. It's not about earning more money. It's about becoming the person who can receive more money. And that person isn't richer. That person is more whole. The story you reenact with money isn't your destiny. It's just a script that can be written. And the first step to rewriting it is recognizing that you are the author of the story. You are the hero, the shadow, the villain, and the treasure. You are the source and the river. You are the crisis and the solution. If you feel that your financial life is a constant battle, perhaps it's time to stop fighting and start listening. Scarcity isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. And what it wants to teach you is the deepest truth about yourself. The truth that you are the source of all your abundance. And that when you heal your soul, money becomes a natural reflection of that healing.